Fraser, I've just been informed, used to actually work with my dad at St Peter's in Solihull, and I was actually the deputy of the school that I'm currently working at as head of RE. So the Catholic education system has once again proven it's a very, very small world. But I'm going to hand over to Fraser, and looking forward to it. Thank you very much, Fraser.
Well, I wouldn't be looking forward to it. Anyway, right, so my name's Fraser, and we have a Scottish person in here. I'm called Fraser. I don't know why I'm called Fraser. My first name's Edward. All right. So, but they decided to call me Fraser, my sister Fiona, and we're not Scottish. But I think my parents in the late '60s obviously like the name. So there you go. And Phil Gray, I taught Phil Gray when I second year I was in Birmingham. I call it the Fraser Wastelands of the North, Birmingham, because I'm from London. And the first year I went up there, I worked in a school that doesn't exist anymore in the form that it was. And then I went to this other school, and I had this year 11 science class, physics class, and Phil Gray was in there. And then he said to me the other week, would you do something at this conference? I'm looking for someone to talk about, well, I don't know what we're going to call them. What are they going to be called? CMATs? Cats?
Max.
In Birmingham. I live in the Archdiocese of Birmingham, and they have called them multi-academy companies, which isn't great really, because then we're not a company. We're changing the world. And a lady from who I don't get on very well with, for the DFE, she's called Sarah Nairn. If you ever come across her, she's in my region. We're northwest south central or something. So we're the only group of schools in the Archdiocese of Birmingham that aren't in the West Midlands regional director. So because we're in Oxfordshire, all right. So I don't want to offend anybody, particularly you, David, but I live in a place where people have a really strange accent, and I work in a place where people speak normally like me, right? So that's what I tend to say. Right, so we are the Pope Francis Catholic Multi-Academy Company. And this woman from the DFE said to me the other week, you're not a teacher anymore, Fraser, you're a big businessman. I said, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Talking about children, talking about education, talking about the love of the gospel and transforming the world. That's what we're talking about, isn't it? That's why we're here today. And so anyway, I will say something about this logo, because we're the Pope Francis Mac, and I didn't want to call it the Pope Francis Mac, but when we started there were 3 schools, and the reason we started as a Catholic Multi-Academy Company was because we had a school in a place called Bretch Hill in Banbury, which was a huge council estate built when the chocolate people, the custard people in Birmingham, Digbeth, moved to Banbury. Then it became Craft, and now it's Mondelez and all the rest of it. And they moved lots and lots of people in the 60s. So I'm like, come in. And they built this huge estate to house them. Some people came from London, but lots of people came from Birmingham. And they were all pretty much Irish descent Catholics, all right? And so the Catholic population grew in Banbury, and then they built a big secondary school. They had a primary school. They built another primary school, and they built a secondary school called Blessed George Napier. Blessed George Napier is the only school in the world with that name, all right? He was hanged, drawn and quartered 410 years ago or something now, all right? And he was lived in Oxford and was from Littlemore. Right, so that's a bit about where we were from. But we called ourselves the Pope Francis because Claire Smith, the head of the primary school, I think when did Pope Francis get elected to be Pope? Yeah, right, so 2013, 2014 we're setting this up, and she said, what about the 40 martyrs and all this stuff, what about this, what about that, let's have a really old name. And then she said, but we've got this new Pope, and he's lovely, and he's fantastic, and he's wonderful. And so her and the other head decided we should be called the Pope Francis Mac. Right, so that's why we're called the Pope Francis Mac. Right, I take no... But then we needed a logo, and so Pope Francis, St Francis, San Damiano cross, so that's why the logo is that. It's blue and gold because the secondary school was blue and gold, and one of the schools was blue and gold, and actually there was some gold in one of the others, so we thought, let's just use that as a logo. So it's very, very simple, and it says Imago Dei, made in the image and likeness of God. Now apparently you can do this with your hand. We'll see. Like that, is it? This isn't mine. I got this out of that brilliant thing from Westminster Diocese, that red book thing they have about Catholic education. Because I had to do a talk in Havant about Catholic life in a school. And I just think it articulates everything that we want to do. And I just keep going back to it all the time. The one thing that I've learned, and this man here I've heard speak many, many times, and has had an effect on me in a positive way through ATCRE. And all of this resonance comes back to the same singularity. The same singularity. You must not lose the singularity of this. Because if you do, things go wrong. You must never lose the singularity. You must never lose the courage of your own conviction to say, this is why we're doing this. This is why we're doing this. And this is where it comes to the Catholic social teaching, contribution to the common good of society. And what's really interesting about this is that Catholic schools, by their very nature, are diverse. I taught, David, I was deputy head at Holy Trinity in Small Heath, which was a school surrounded by the Trojan. Heard of the Trojan horse business in Birmingham, where there were all sorts of things went up. Well, we were in the middle of that, but of course we were a Catholic school and it didn't affect us in that way, all right? And I remember an Ofsted inspector coming in one day, and he said, they were doing a music review, and he said to me, and he pointed at these two lads, and he said, well, you've got a lot of Muslim children here, haven't you? That's what they said. This is what this HMI said. I said, that's an interesting statement. I said, because they're Sarah Malabite, they're Catholic. Please don't judge people by what they look like. There you go. You get a shot in every now and again. It's quite good. But I want to talk about this, okay? Because I think I've got quite a few reflections. I'll go on too long, and I'll probably bore you all to death. But the thing about this is, I think we are made by the people who love us, our families, our grandparents. I was just talking to somebody over there who's from Oldham. My grandfather was born in Haslington, right? My grandmother was from Tyrone in Northern Ireland. My dad's from Shepherd's Bush. My mother was born in Lancashire. She went, I'll tell you where she went. She went to Sacred Heart in Hammersmith. My dad went to the Cardinal Hall Memorial School. All right? There you go, you see, right? And I was lucky enough to be born into that family. But that my dad used to say to me, do you really think there's a hell, Fraser? I said, what do you mean, do you think there's a hell? I said, but I would rather there wasn't one because I get into trouble quite a lot. And he said, do you think a loving God would have something like hell? Now, the reason he said that was because he was taught in the late 40s, early 50s at the Cardinal Vaughan, and the priests that taught him were the Internal Mission, all right? Mill Hill. And they were Vatican II priests, pre-Vatican II, and they were all well educated, and he had this most amazing faith. He also was, I shouldn't really say this on camera, he was pronounced dead in 1964. He had tubercular meningitis. And they told my mother he was dead and to leave the body, and she refused. And she prayed with them all night, and in the morning they came and they found signs of life, and the crash team came in, but he went somewhere and came back. So he used to say to me, I don't know why you're worried about dying. I'm not worried about dying. I know where I'm going. I didn't want to come back. Right? And then, before he died, he said, my signet ring is either on me, on the bedside table, or by my bottle of whiskey in the living room. And my documents are in the sock drawer, and 2 weeks later he dropped dead. There you go. It's also the first time he ever gave me any petrol money. I should have known there was something wrong when he gave me petrol money. So, here we go. I'm from Hillingdon, which I always say is Greater West London. It's a nondescript place. I lived on the flight path into North Holt Aerodrome, alright? The only good thing about that was I saw a Vulcan bomber and a load of planes, which was very exciting. Because when I was a child, with the Falklands War and the Spitfire flight. And I went to this convent school, and Sister Dolores was the head teacher. So I was born in this Catholic family, we went to Mass every week, and I had these nuns. Now I will say to you now that I have absolutely no nerves or no feeling in this hand here. And I'm right-handed. If you went to a Catholic primary school in the early 70s or before that, you know why that was. But do you know what, really, I think about it now, why didn't I ever say when they said, are you right-handed or left-handed? Why didn't I say I was left-handed? Because I wouldn't have been able to write, would I? But I always said, oh, I'm right-handed, sister. But you know, I met one of the nuns a few years ago, Sister Teresa, and she was still reading, she was 90-odd, still reading 3 days a week in that primary school to children. And she gave me a hug, and she remembered me. And then I realised, because she said, but you're our children. She still remembered, oh, your lovely mother, oh, you're like, how, fantastic, right? Which is why I'm talking about this. Because these ladies in that school loved me. And I know that I got hit a bit, but I loved them too. And I knew they cared about me. and I did my first confession with them. Sister Pius taught me to read in church. All of these things. Sister Pius told us where God lived in the tabernacle. All of these memories are in my head. These women, these sisters of mercy, formed me. My great aunt was a sister of mercy as well. Sometimes she'd come and stay with them. And her aunt, who was a head teacher in Haslingden, was a sister of mercy. Did the most amazing things. So and I didn't realise until a few years ago that I was formed by them. I went to St Mary's for a year, because when I finished school I went and did a mixing concrete degree. Quite enjoyed that. But actually I really wanted to become a teacher. My father went ballistic. My father had been a big shot engineer, all right? And then my mother died. He decided to be a teacher because he'd have the holidays. So when I was about 11 or 12, I became a teacher, became a maths teacher in a Catholic school. And he said, oh, you want to be an engineer? Be an engineer, it's a great job, blah, blah, blah. I said, you know what, Dad? I'm going to go and be a teacher, all right? So he was really angry with me for a while, a few years, then he was all right. And I went to St Mary's, and who was sitting at St Mary's ready to talk to me? Father Perry Gilday, right? Father Michael Pryor, Father Philip Walsh. The most amazing people. And Father Des was the principal. I was there in the last year that it had a religious running the college. All right? It's the most incredible place. The Opus have been with the football team doing the collection on a Sunday night at Mass. Brilliant. But these guys taught me something just by their being around. Father Perry used to say, I'll be in the bar every night at 10 o'clock. Just not be in there. If anyone ever wants to talk to me, I'll be there. Sometimes he even bought you a drink. It was brilliant. Because I joined the folk group, I thought that was a good idea. So I've gone from these Sisters of Mercy, my parents, then the Sisters of Mercy, then I've had this input. And my wife doesn't like me saying this. That was the best year of my life. Living in Teddington, 99 Lang Road, with an amazing family who I knew through Lourdes, going to every home game Brentford played, and we got promoted that season. It's great. I'm going down this season. And being with those guys, and I already went to Lourdes, but they gave us the money to go to Lourdes and all the rest of it because they had a big Sumerian Lourdes group. And it was amazing. And then I went to get a job, and I don't know how I found out about it, someone just rang me or something. And I ended up going up to a place called Highgate in London, which is very, very posh, right? George Michael stopped me at the zebra crossing once when I was walking there, and we used to see Yaz, and remember Yaz? She was quite famous a long time ago. Yeah, she lived there. Peter Stringfellow lived up the road. Used to see him all the time. Not a great character, but he was all very interesting. So Highgate was amazing. But all of the children were from Camden, Hackney, Islington. All right? They weren't from up the hill, they were from the bottom of the hill at Tufnell Park. Right, who was sitting in there? The De La Salle brothers. Never come across them before. So I turned up the first day and I met this scouser called Brother Anthony Rothwell. He's got really thick glasses and starts talking to me because I'm a young bloke. Then there's another guy called Brother Paul, and he says, we've got football practice today. Year 7 football trials, all right? It's 180 children in a year group. We've got football trials. The football pitch, we're the only school in Islington with a football pitch, and it's because it's in Haringey Borough, it's near Crouch End. And they said, well, come down and we'll need your help at the football, right? And I said, well, okay then, but I haven't got any kit. So Brother Paul was quite big. Brother Anthony had so I was in a pair of joggers that didn't fit me, and a massive shirt of Brother Paul's, and someone's discarded trainers. And I went down to football practice, and there were 180 boys at football. 180 boys, right? And then we had to do a few nights. But do you know what the best thing was? I said, what are you having for tea? And I lived in the rented house above my friend Sean, who's passed away now, who's also a teacher, his mother's house in Finsbury Park. She was from John Callaghan in Ireland. And I said, well, I haven't got anything for tea. I was going to go to the Tesco's, you know. And they said, oh, don't worry. And I went in the house, there's 10 brothers, and they've got a cook, and they're having a mixed grill. Oh, man, I thought I died and gone to heaven. And I worked in that school for 7 years, and I got Brother Anthony to go to Lourdes with one of our groups, because they needed a male helper. And then Brother Paul, we went to the pub one night, we went to the pub often with him, and he said to me, oh, you know Brother Anthony's going to Lourdes because you made him go to Lourdes? And I said, yeah. He said, well, I've got this form here, and it's, he said, I'll fill it in for oh, yeah, okay then. And then he sent it off to this guy called Brother Gregory Williams, who you may have come across. And he ran the Sally and Developing World project. So I ended up going on this project to Tanzania. It's supposed to be India, but it wasn't. It was Tanzania. And we built a hospital in the back end of Bakware in the middle of Tanzania. With, I think there were 12 of us, right? And it was really good because it was like mixing concrete in 110 and all that stuff and digging holes. I'm quite good at that sort of thing. And I quite like the idea of it because actually I wasn't teaching, I was doing something physical and something really different. And so they gave me this opportunity to do something that most people don't get the opportunity to do. And it was because I'd made Brother Anthony go to Lourdes. By the way, Brother Anthony loved Lourdes and kept going. Then I've got HCPT, the Pilgrimage Trust, and I did say, what's his name? Andy Clare, to come in this afternoon, because we're going to talk about HCPT, the Pilgrimage Trust. So when I was 16, bearing in mind my mother had died, and I was about 11, I was a bit mixed up, a bit upset, not great, all the rest of it, you know how it is. And there didn't seem to be any counselling services back in the early 80s. So, and if there had been, my dad wouldn't have taken me anyway, didn't do that sort of thing. So, my mother had been to Lourdes in 1977 and I had this thing in my head, and then this priest, I thought he was a priest, he wasn't, he was a deacon, came into our sixth form college, St Dominic's in Harrow Hill, right? And he said, who wants to go to Lourdes at Easter? I thought, oh God, that's my opportunity. And I went to Lourdes. And I would say that fixed me. Going to Lourdes fixed me. And then when I was going to, and then I started, I went in the youth group, then I went with lots of different children, and then when I went to St Mary's, I went with the youth group again, and then I started my own group called North London Youth. And then after a few years I thought, well, do you know what, I don't even need to go to Lourdes anymore, because I'm actually fixed. Not am I, obviously, but I thought I was, because I was arrogant. And then I thought, what if there's someone like me? What if there's someone like me that needs to go to Lourdes, and if I don't take them, they won't be fixed like me? So I kept going for years and years and years and years. And then that kind of keyed into the Vincentians, because there was a big Sumerian presence. And then you think about, and here's the next thing, because I was talking about this last week at a Midland Region meeting, what St Mary's and HCPT and the Vincentians and all those things have done for inclusion of children in our society through Catholic education. All right? I've also been on the diocesan pilgrimage lots of times because my school, Blessed George Napier, I remember the only school in the world called that, had a massive presence on the diocesan pilgrimage. So we would take 46 formers to Lourdes. So that's why I'm like I am. And I thought it was important that you heard that. I don't think it's unusual, but I just think it's important. But I would say I was very lucky. But what I did learn, as a child I never took opportunity, but as an adult I thought, you know, I'm just going to try that. And maybe I'll like it, maybe I won't. And I met the most amazing people. Do you know who the most influential people in all of that I'm in a lot of ways, were two Irish nuns in Ethiopia. They set up a medical centre with loads of drugs in it. I mean, I know because I had to take Brother Norbert for a stool sample because we all thought we had worms, right? Which was terrible. And he was in all sorts of bother, and I took him. He wouldn't go unless I went, so I had to do it as well. But they set up this medical centre. So running a medical centre, it was full of drugs that they got for free because I don't know, nuns get stuff, don't they? Nuns get stuff. Don't know how they do it. Strong-arming people, thumb screws, guilt, looking at them. There's just no, you can't escape, can you? Right? You know you're going to have to give whatever. So they had all these drugs. They were running a medical centre. They were checking for diseases, malaria and all sorts of things. And they'd set up a cooperative for the women. They taught the ladies about health for children and what happens with bacteria, and also, so infant mortality had dropped, and then they got a market garden, so the women, I've got 4 daughters by the way, so this is, the women were growing their own food and selling it so they didn't have to listen to the men anymore. Right? But that's transformative, isn't it? So I've had all this put into me. And it's the religious and the priest. This is what's happened. So I'm really lucky. I've met the most amazing people. Do you know, Brother Alfred. I cried when I left Brother Alfred in India. I actually cried like a child when he left me and he walked up the street because I spent the summer with him with this group of children. And he said to me, Indian Independence Day, Feast of the Assumption, 15th of August, right? And he bought some hot stuffs, which is Indian brandy. And we were sitting there drinking it, and he said to me, do you know what, Fraser, your wealth in life is within your relationships with other people. Single most important, impactful statements anyone ever said to me. And then he said to me, so you can be poor and miserable, or poor and happy. And you can be rich and miserable, or rich and happy. It's nothing to do with that. It's about who's around you, and of course your relationship with God. So that's why I'm like I am. So I do apologise. So, started the journey. We became a multi-academy company in 2014 called the Pope Francis Mac. I've already told you didn't want to call it the Pope Francis Mac, but what was it to do with me? I was just the person that went to jail if the money went wrong, because I was the accounting officer, because we had a bursar in our school and the primaries didn't. So that's what happened. And has anyone ever been to Chipping Norton? Well, there you go. What's Chipping Norton like?
Yes, kind of like a market town. Quite nice.
Yeah, it's full of loads of rich people. Yeah, Jeremy Clarkson and all that business. And it's the most beautiful primary school. There's hardly any Catholics there. There are only Catholics there because the Earl of Shrewsbury was a Recursant family, right? And he built the Catholic Church before the Restoration hierarchy, and then he gave the estate, Heathrop, to the Jesuits, right? So that's why there's a Catholic primary school in Chipping Norton. It's never been full of Catholics because there aren't very many Catholics in Chipping Norton. It's the most amazing place. I've already told you about St Joseph's in Banbury on that massive council estate. So we've got St Joseph's in Banbury, BGN, Blessed George Napier, and Holy Trinity Chipping Norton. And the reason we became a MAC was because we thought we were going to lose St Joseph's in Banbury because it was struggling, they'd lost their head teacher. And so I want you to really understand this. The only reason I went into a multi-academy trust was because we had to save a school, a Catholic school, for the poorest. It's the equal poorest area of Oxfordshire. Okay? That's the reason we did it. No other reason. So actually, it was about solidarity. It was purely about solidarity. Not about, do I agree with maths, do I not agree about maths? It doesn't really matter. Because that's why we did it, okay? And so what do we base everything on? St Francis. Then it turns out, now people in here will probably know, because we've got, one of our directors is, well, I call him Father Mervyn Towers, the brightest man I've ever met. And he was telling me about Blessed Agnellus of Pisa. And St Francis of Assisi sent him to England. So Francis sent him to England. He ended up in Oxford. It was the precursor to the university. And they had a house there. Of course, it got smashed up, and now it's where the Westgate Shopping Centre is. And then the Franciscans came back to Oxford in a parish called Greyfriars on the Iffley Road, near the track where the 4-minute mile was broken, okay, in about 1850, and set up a college. So the prayer of St Francis is our prayer. And of course, it's all about stewardship, isn't it? It's all about love for one another. It's about, and I don't think there's a better thing to be based upon. So we spent a lot of time and a lot of energy trying to get this right. And then, before everything else happened, this document came out, and I don't know if you've read it or not. I was really lucky because I went on the Evangelii Gaudium conference in Rome, which I found quite amazing, really. And then I read this. It's about brotherly and sisterly love. And if you have read it, if you haven't read it, read it. It's absolutely amazing. And it's everything we should be. So I read that, I thought, we're the Pope Francis Mac, this is what we're doing. That's one of our children, one of our schools. Oh, if I just say to you, this background is the chapel at Blessed George Napier. It's like glass poured into spaces. An art teacher from Catholic school in Wolverhampton did it. Brilliant guy. And the art teacher took a picture of it from the floor when the sky was really blue behind it, because it doesn't look like that normally. So that was a moment in time when it was taken. And it's the last time. And in that, there's a couple of prayers at the end of it. I will say that I took one of the lines out of the second stanza because I didn't like it, and I do apologise to the Pope for that. But this is a prayer that we use a lot. And the reason is it's about brotherly and sisterly love, agape. It's about inspiration. It's about each other, everything I've ever learned. And I love this bit. Common projects and shared dreams. Because that's what we should be doing with each other, isn't it? That's what we should be doing with each other. That's what we should be driving. Then what happened? Oh my goodness me. There was a MAC called the Dominic Barbary Multi-Academy Company. £1.4 million in debt, or around that figure. A number of failing schools. The biggest issue really was St Gregory the Great in Oxford, which had been a secondary school, then they decided to make it to an all-through school, and it was just all went wrong. And so what they asked us to do was they asked us to take all of those schools in overnight. Okay? Now, it sounds very easy to do this, but have you heard that expression? You must have heard that expression. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. When you've got two organisations, one that was set up poorly, because it was a forced academisation. Some of the schools wanted to join our, and the diocese said, previous incumbents, no you can't. They were forced into this thing, and then they were all in debt, and all the primary schools' money was propping up the secondary school because of what had happened. This one here, St John's Banbury, wasn't part of them because they were a Category 4 school that we had to take in as well, just to help us out. But they came in overnight, and the biggest issue we had was they had centralised everything. The head teachers, everybody kind of abdicated responsibility for everything because, well, the central team do that. Governance, finance, HR. Everyone was in the red, pretty much, because they'd abdicated responsibility. Because the key to this is, and I'm tired of people telling me this isn't the key to it, it's about solidarity, but it's about subsidiarity. The schools are the schools in their own parishes and in their own areas, with their own governance, with their own head teacher. I haven't had a row. I was with Father Mervyn, and with the Regional Schools Commissioner, I'm the nicest person you'll ever meet, but I love a row every now and again. Part of me. And with the Regional Director, or Regional Schools Commissioner, or whatever he was called then, and they were saying, well, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. And I said, but all right, what? No head teachers? Oh, you've got to... And the representatives from the diocese and the ESFA and all these people. And my chair of governance, directors, is with me. And people from the diocese. And I said to Father Mervyn, he said, what? I said, when did the Jesuits, when were they founded? And I don't know when it was, 15-something or 4, whatever. And I said, all right then, because he knows all this stuff, Father Mervyn. He's amazed to got it right. Brightest man I've ever met. Anyway, he said to me then, I said, okay, and how long have they had schools? He said, well, pretty much from the start. I said, okay. And Father Mervyn, did they have head teachers in their schools? And he said, yes. I said, have they always had head teachers in their schools? He said, yes. Oh, Jesuit schools are really successful, aren't they, on the whole? The Regional Schools Commissioner was looking at me, and people does. And he went, oh yeah. I said, well, so why would I not do what they're doing? Why would I be arrogant enough to think that I could come up with a better model that hasn't been proven to work? And these guys, and nuns and brothers, have been running schools for 200-300 years with head teachers. Why would I think that I would know better? He went, fair enough. So we've got head teachers. But this is what we had to take on, and I will say to you, the culture was the real problem. Because we had a centralised team, we had people that did not understand Catholic education. All right? And I've laboured about it at the start, but I think I understand Catholic education, but only because I've worked with the religious, people that have run schools for hundreds of years, that know what they're doing, that understand that we can liberate the poor, that we can change the world, and we know the truth, and the truth will set you free. And the point about that is, they say, no, we're not going to do that. We know this is, we're going to do this. We're going to keep the singularity. We're not going to waver from the singularity. So you can imagine, it was really, really hard. And the Regional School Committee, you can't take any more schools in because, one, you're in a massive amount of debt. We've still got a loan from the DFE of hundreds of thousands of pounds to make this happen. But here's an interesting one. Carterton, they're all over Oxfordshire. Carterton is by Bryce Norton, so it's got lots of turnover of children because the parents are constantly being moved. And there are 9,000 military or Air Force people in the town, but of course they've all got families. But they might be 6-month, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 5 year rotations. So children will be there, come back, go to Cyprus and all over. But that school had 72 children a year and a half ago. We thought, oh good, what can we do? It's got 120 odd now. Right? Our Lady's Cowley, brilliant school. Where did Tara train? St Mary's, Strawberry Hill. There you go. And St Gregory's in Oxford is now not called St Gregory's in Oxford. St Gregory's in Oxford is now called Greyfriars Catholic School, in the parish of Greyfriars, which goes all the way back to St Francis of Assisi. See how it's this to me, this is the key, right? It's now, and it was Category 4 twice, special measures. I mean, I've been involved with you. My name's on a most atrocious Ofsted report because I had a head of primary and secondary, so someone had to put me in the report. And it got good in Ofsted this year. It's a holy miracle. It is a holy miracle that happened. And when we were in the room, and one of the people who was one of the team had been on the Caversham Ofsted, the lady that was that the court case afterwards. And then the one after that, the man that was lead inspector was a Carterton. That got good as well. But when we were in the rooms at Greyfriars and they were talking about quality of education, I kept thinking the bloke's going to say in a minute, but, and he didn't. And then he said, so the overall judgment for quality of education is good. I was like this. One of the governors started crying. The Ofsted inspector started crying. It was a bit like being in Lourdes when you're in a place with people and you're praying, but you don't feel like you're in a place. Something was going on. So at the end of it, it was the most amazing thing. At the end of it, so can we all say a prayer? So the Ofsted team and us all said a prayer together. It was brilliant. But there you go. We changed the world because now we have a secondary school in Oxford that is good, and now the children are coming back in the city of learning, right? So nothing to do with me. We got a brilliant head teacher. We got amazing people. It's all about amazing people who want to change the world. We've got people applying to work in our school because it's in such a... Oxford sounds really fancy. It's got loads of money in it, but there are bits that are very poor. Blackbird Leys, we've got a school there. St John Fisher. I was there yesterday. We appointed a fantastic head, originally from South London, Crystal Palace fan. Can't help himself. There you go. But the point is, these schools are improving. But they're improving because the people that we have got want to make a difference in Catholic education, right? And they're not saying, oh, I'll finish at 3:30 or whatever. They understand the mission. We interviewed someone who's not a Catholic but is a Christian the other week, and he said, I choose to work here because I want these children to have a proper, better start in life. Why should they not have the opportunities of other children? That school, St John Fisher, the head said, he's taken to the opera. He said, I want my children from Blackbird Leys to have a private education. Why can't they go to the opera? Why can't they swim? We've got a pop-up swimming pool this week in there because the children don't learn to swim there because they don't get the swim bars. So they teach it. It's like you get it for 4 weeks and immerse. Brilliant. I wasn't allowed to go in. But there you go. So we have two organisations. One of them was dictatorial and one was flourishing. Do you want to be in a dictatorial organisation? Everything's centralised. You're gag called. You're this, you're that, you're a head of school. We'll tell you what you're doing. Now, I'm not sure how many organisations there are like that are successful for over a long period of time. Because I think the evidence would suggest to me that flourishing organisations are bottom-up organisations that value and love the people in them. And that starts with our children and what we're doing for our children and what we're doing for our staff who love our children. And how do I look after our staff who look after our children and their families? Because we're all made in the image and likeness of God, so we all have to be loved. And it's a really simple message. And what are those barriers? Those barriers are always about, well, we used to be this and now we're this and all the rest. Get rid of all of that. Imago Dei. Imago Dei. And of course you've always got the issue of change management. Any change, even if you don't change anything, but you're just a different face, or you've changed something, I haven't changed anything. But it's a natural emotion. So how do you communicate with people? I would say me and my team, we don't have a central office. We go and work in other schools. And so the schools see the HR person, the CFO, Martin, he's lovely. They see me, maybe they don't want to see me. I've got a primary lead. She's amazing, absolutely amazing. She's in the schools all the time. So the guy that does all the buildings. So they're seeing us all the time. They know us. And so the change management process is easier if people trust you. And they trust what you're doing. But actually, we have to go back to the why. So I've started saying, we've got Sister Susan's here today. She's a Sally Park sister. And she used to be a head of a school in Banbury. But why is your school here? Well, St John's in Banbury has been the nuns have had it since 1847. I think it opened in 1844, right? And the order was a French order, but it was founded in England. But that school at the moment, it was category 4, are not using that charism. They're not thinking, this school's been in Banbury for... And actually, as I was at St Paul's last Sunday, I'm going to bring up the head there, and actually Sister Trace Brown maybe, and say, let's do something. and try and help that school discover that charism. Because we had a school in Whitney, and they had this really, like, I don't know, 1990s, like, let's love each other kind of badge, sort of it. And then the new head, Daniel, said, I've been doing some thinking and about blah, blah, blah. The school was set up 100 years ago by this order of nuns, and he found their crest, and it's got a Latin back, and so everything, and now that's their charism. Turns out the school in Thames is the school in Thames is a Salesian school. Actually, not the Salesian one. The one in Henley is Salesian. We've got one in Oxford, Our Lady's Cowley, and they've got this thing called Rua. The last one is humour, right? It's a Salesian way. So what the key to this is, why are you there? Why are you in that parish? It's actually about subsidiarity. Bottom up, becoming part of the solidarity, all right? You're in your own context, you're there for a reason. You've got a head teacher, right, in your school, and you're in a parish, and the parish is the school and the school is the parish, okay? So it's actually, it's that. And it's people understanding the charism, understanding why is this Catholic school here in this community? Why did those nuns come here? Why did those brothers do that? Why did any of it happen? Why are they so good? Do you know, we've got the two, primary school with the highest attendance in Oxfordshire and the secondary school with the highest attendance in Oxfordshire in our MAC. We're the MAC, get this, though you're going to have to edit this out. There are 16 MACs in Oxfordshire, in Dartford, Birmingham, and the one with the highest outcomes is the Pope Francis MAC. It's nothing to do with me, it's to do with the amazing people we've got, because they're responsible for their children. They're responsible for their Catholicity under the umbrella that we have. And I mentioned Fraser, I mentioned ATCRE earlier. We don't have a central team, we have a support team, because they're there to support you in what you are doing. They're not there to tell you what to do, right? They're here. I've got a problem, what do you need? We'll come round. There's always someone on the phone. Imago Dei. I like this because I'm on ATCRE in Oxfordshire, and I remember one of the Quakers there once saying, we like to say that there's a little bit of God in everybody. I thought, that's a nice way of thinking about it, isn't it? If we believe this, and I do, thank you. If we believe this, and I do, that means that every interaction with every child, every person, every parent, every parish priest, everybody from the Diocesan Education Service, I've got to reflect that in the way I speak to them. Because otherwise I'm not living my faith. Otherwise I haven't learned anything from the sisters or the brothers or the priests or the children that I've met that have taught me more than anybody else has. And we all need to know each other. So we're quite mobile, and we've got schools like 30 miles apart and all the rest of it, but we know each other. So how do we know each other? How do we do these things? We got everybody together at the start of the year. We had Sister Judith Rossi this year, she was smashed it. She was brilliant. People were like, wow, can we have her? She was just, and you know, she's quite radical. She's a radical feminist. Hence, my daughter's now radical feminist Catholics. It's a bit of a nightmare living at home, right? We take all our teachers on the ATCRE retreat, all our head teachers. No one else does that. We all go. We went the night before, and we are with each other on retreat. Not at a conference, not talking about this, that and the other, but replenishing and helping them. They might go to Mass, but do they really understand? Have they been formed like I've been? Have they been lucky enough? Not all of them have. Or they've come back to church and they didn't go for years. How are we giving them the tools to be leaders of a community of faith? And I mean that in an authentic way, not, oh, we're going to go to Mass and we're going to do it. If you don't understand it, you don't understand it. But we can form you. That, I think the ATCRE stuff, if you haven't got involved with it, it is amazing. We've got 3 people on Christ the Teacher this year. That has, and I would say the relationships I've got with those people and the relationships they've got between each other and the other heads radically changed. Massive difference. They went to Coromila, I think, the other week, and one of them was complaining that they thought the day trip should have been to the Bushmills distillery and not the Giant's Causeway. But anyway. But what's happened is these people have become open. We have a governor retreat, Father David Rock, who's here. If you ever want to retreat, he's brilliant, he's Dominican. It's amazing we have a governor retreat. We've got music festivals, and now we're running MPQ. So other places say, oh, we're going to teach you about this, we're going to teach you about that. But we thought, do you know what we'll do? We'll run 3 MPQs. We'll do behaviour and culture, leading teaching, and the senior leadership one. And I'm doing the SL one with my primary lead. And we've got 14 people, and we've got permission to do it through BPM, Best Practice Network. So we've got teachers that are going to become leaders that know us, and we're running the course. God, it's amazing. I was there and went, I loved it. The power of that is amazing. And I wouldn't have said that before. But so I've got a relationship with people who I wouldn't have had that deep relationship with. They've now got relationships with people across the mat. The same with, we've got heads and deputies doing the other courses. I think one other mat's doing it. But those sorts of things are hugely important. And I didn't realise the impact of it. I just did it because I thought it was a good idea, right? Turns out it was a brilliant idea. It wasn't actually my idea. It was Jim O'Neill's, who used to be not Maricourt, what was it? Carmel in the North East was the head there for 18 years. He said, let's do this. And so he's one of our directors and we did it. And it's been amazing. But what's amazing is, it's doing this. There's joy, partnership, development of faith, and real ownership of the learning and progress of our children. And so I get the opportunity, I don't just talk to the heads about culture, I talk to other people about the culture, and we're saying this is what our culture is. That's really powerful, really powerful. And I wouldn't have believed it unless I'd seen it myself. So you've not just got the head teachers as a filter, everyone's hearing it over time and understanding that they're known and they're loved and being developed. This is great. I've got 3 slides left. I got this from a bit of research, some course. Culture, vision, values, ethos. All this other stuff is important. That's part of that. Effective governance has been the absolute key to our improvement. Directors, we call them directors, they're trustees really, but local governing bodies as well. And when Ofsted have come in and given us good reports, they said the directors, the local governors, and the heads and the school are all saying the same thing. They're all part of the same journey. They're all part of the same message. Really important. This is what doesn't work. Oh look, we're a centralised administrative body that's going to tell you what to do. Or people just go off and do whatever. You've got to have some support. If you've got a school that says, but I want to spend £100,000 more than my budget, that can be a bit of a problem because they can't afford it. You do have to have school improvement that's from outside so people are making the right decisions. And of course, what happened with the Dominic Barbary Mac, finance is unsustainable. What's it all really about? It's 3 things. I said this to Bishop Malcolm McMahon in Lourdes. I said basically, I sat in the regional, and I got over on by about a minute. I was in the Regional Schools Commission's office, and I've got all this pressure. I grind my teeth very badly because we've got these schools that are in all this trouble, and there's no money. And I'm looking at this board, and it says Ofsted gradings. I'm thinking, here's a bit of a metacognition for me. So then I realised how I was going to get to the good books of the Regional Schools Commissioner, and how I was going to do the best job for our children was to get the schools to be good. I know that sounds crazy, but we're Catholic schools, and I want the whole child to be developed. So the single most important thing that we do every day, more than once a day, hopefully you do the Angelus in your school at lunchtime as well, is pray. So the children know they are loved, they're made in the image and likeness of God, and they are loved, and they are precious. Alright? Single most important thing any child can feel, because then they can be the person God means them to be, right? So, that's what makes us distinctive. Then of course, you've got to teach great lessons, and use the resources we've got. So most of the money, this is what our CFO says to me, Fraser, we want most of the money in front of the children, not somewhere else, making a difference to the children that are in the schools now. It's not complicated, but you would think, if you listen to all the white noise that I hear all of the time, that this is really complicated. This is what the nuns and the brothers and the priests and the Catholic Church have been doing for millennia. Right? All the way back, even the Greeks, Socrates and all of that. It's really simple. Prayer, teach great lessons, use what you have wisely. Don't get deviated from the truth. Right? Because remember, the truth sets you free, and everybody's trying, it's like entropy, isn't it? Everybody's trying to take a bit out of you. It's nonsense. And the hardest thing to do is to not do stuff sometimes. The The hardest thing is to say, no, we're just doing this. It's really simple. We're just doing this. That's the key, really. And there's a couple more slides that I quite like. I thought you might read at the end because I thought, well, I wouldn't have much to say. But it turns out I've got quite. Your dad would say the same. Oh, please never shut up. Yeah. So the common good, diversity, and our mission, and inspire children to really live their lives and make the most of their lives. So we've got to pray, and every child has got to know that they are known and loved and precious and can be the person that God means them to be, and they can do anything as part of a flourishing network of schools that don't have to be in maths. I just happen to be in one. If you've got the right people in the mat, if you've got the right leadership, and you're doing it the right way, everyone will blossom, everyone will flourish. But if you overcomplicate it and you centralise everything, anyway, thank you for listening. I hope it was of some use.